Hey folks, Jer here. Welcome to The View. And as requested, we finally managed to pin down somebody who knows something about the San Francisco 49ers to have a chat with us and give us some insight. And we have Cam Inman, who is a reporter at the 49ers, amongst other things. Cam, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us about the 49ers today. And then maybe just want to tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, okay. So I live out in the San Francisco Bay Area. I started covering the San Francisco 49ers for the newspapers out here probably in the year 2000, so 2000 season. But I grew up in the Bay, so I grew up watching the 49ers win the Super Bowls under a different ownership, kind of. It was a majority owner was Eddie DeBartolo before he handed it off to the York family. About the same time I was coming on covering the 49ers. So yeah, for the last 2 decades, I've seen how the franchise has gone high to low. They built a new stadium. They've made it to 2 Super Bowls and lost, and they've made it to the bottom of the NFL a couple times as well. So it's funny because I know Leeds is trending down right now after just flirting with relegation and all this. And mind you, I'm not as up on my Premier League football as I should. But I have a little bit of an idea what's going on out there. And the 49ers, they are 7 games into a 17-game schedule right now. And they are 3-4, and 3 wins, 4 losses. And everybody out here is, I wouldn't say they're panicking as much as they probably would have a few years ago, because I think they like what they've seen out of this ownership group. And kind of the stability that's kind of been in play the last few years. So, but I've seen it the other way too. So, whichever way you want to go with your questions, hit me up. And
saying all the right things. There's a song that Leeds United have that is our entrance song and our kind of a motto song called "Marching On Together." And in it says, "We've been through it all together. We've had our ups and downs." So it sounds very familiar to what the 49ers have gone through over the last 20 odd so years. Under the Yorks. What are the Yorks like as an ownership model? That's the main thing people are curious about. With this, San Francisco have a 44% ownership of Leeds, and they've got a buyout clause for 2024 for full buyout. And I suppose what people are really interested in is when the Yorks took control of the 49ers, what are they like as an ownership group, firstly?
I would say they've matured a lot. And so if they were taking over Leeds 20 years ago, I'd be concerned. But I think the fact that they've learned how to handle a professional sports franchise pretty well. They've understood where to be hands off and let the other people be in control of player and coaching matters. They've really these last probably 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 years, they've really kind of taken a business approach in terms of they're making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money through the football stadium, hosting concerts and other events there. The NFL is making a ton of money, obviously, so that helps. They're not as reactionary, but if they see something that's not working, I don't think that would stop them from making a change. And I bring that up just probably because of everything that's going on over there.
This week, especially
with the manager. Yeah. And when they took over in 2000, they had a kind of a good foundation. They weren't that far removed from winning championships. But now this is, I think, the 26th or 27th straight year they're looking for a Super Bowl win. They haven't had it. This was a franchise that was based on Super Bowl victories. They haven't won one since January 1995. So they haven't won one under the York watch. But I'll tell you, so Paraag Marathe he's kind of helps run things over there, right? And he's kind of like their consigliere for everything that's going on in Leeds. I talked to Prague maybe a week or 2 ago at a 49er game, and the passion and enthusiasm and energy, I would say it's a very good sign for Leeds. This is not hey, yeah, we just got this little investment overseas that we can tinker with and put on our portfolio. They are very excited about this franchise, and I think they have a lot of grand plans for it, and obviously they want to win, and I'm sure that the losses are not comforting, but it's not something that they disregard. So I think that they're going to get very involved in it. I mean, I'm sure that they would be taking over full ownership if they have the ability to. there's no reason they shouldn't. I mean, it's a great in to be in an English Premier League, and you have the NFL financial backing to help you with that. So now, if you'd asked me this 20 years ago, I'd be a little skeptical. Right now, I'd say, it's kind of both. I think one, you need the energy and the passion and the commitment, and they will have that for the team. The other flip side is I'd probably just be a little concerned of, who is going to be mentoring them through this? Who is going to be the people that are guiding them through Premier League pitfalls, stuff that they should know if they're new to the game. And that's something that they're going to have to learn, just like they did in the NFL Matters 20 years ago.
Yeah, they've got the current ownership that's there under Andrea Radrizzani, Italian businessman who owns the club currently, and Victor Ord and Angus Kinnear, who are coming in for a bit of stick at the moment as an ownership model for maybe not filling all the gaps that they should have in the squad before the start of the season, which has led to kind of a great start to the season and a kind of a collapse over the last 8 games. But there's time. There's always time.
Right.
But what's the most beneficial thing you see from this ownership model if they were to come into Leeds? Like what's the big things Leeds are going to take from this, from just a transferring from an NFL franchise into an English football club?
Well, I think you're getting a reputable ownership group that doesn't have baggage and controversy that's coming with them, that they have the financial backing and wherewithal and just the belief that they want to do well overseas. I think they take a lot of pride in that. You see some really rich people around the world that would want to own an English Premier League team. The 49ers have become really rich, obviously. But they don't do it in a way where they are so snobby and arrogant, where they don't listen to what the fans or other people like that. I think they're very perception sound. So, if people are calling for the coach's head, if they haven't won 5 games or whatever, they'd understand that. I mean, they've seen that with the 49ers. So let me paint this for like a reactionary. They went through 4 coaches in 4 years at one point. Okay. They had Jim Harbaugh was a coach that led them back into playoff contention and made them reach the Super Bowl. But he only lasted 4 seasons, which was kind of short for a coach that had such a really good success. But there was such a personality conflict and business conflict, and it just didn't work. And so they parted in 2015. They promoted an assistant coach to the head coaching role, Jim Tomsula, great guy, terrible head coach. So he was gone after a year. Everybody could see it. So they didn't overstay his welcome. They brought in Chip Kelly, a college coach, essentially. And that was the year Colin Kaepernick made waves internationally by kneeling during the national anthem, promoting social equality and police, hoping for better police misconduct or better police conduct. So that year was a wash, and they knew the team was terrible, and they needed a giant reset so they got rid of the general manager, the guy that picks the team, the players, and then the head coach, the manager of the squad. And they brought in Kyle Shanahan. This was in 2017, and John Lynch, who's the general manager. And so these guys now are still in the same position, and the Niners have been very inconsistent. They've lost, they've won. They've lost, they've won. They've started this year 3-4, which is not great, but last year they started 3-4 and then 3-5, and they still made it within minutes of reaching the Super Bowl. So I think the ownership understands the ebbs and flows of professional sports, but at the same time, they always preach championship rather than profits, even though I think we can all be skeptical and say, well, the rich get richer. They want more money. The best way to get money is to win championships, right? So that's kind of where I see it. And I'm not an apologist or propagandist for them. I mean, I've known them for 20-something years. Never, hung out with them necessarily. I've talked to Jed York, who's the John and Denise York are the majority owners of the 49ers. Jed is their son. He's the CEO of the 49ers. Paraag and him are about the same age. I started on the Niner beat when those two guys were coming onto the Niners 20 years ago. Paraag was more of a salary cap contract manager. Jed was learning every part of the organization because someday he's going to take it over. And probably about maybe longer than that, probably about 8 years ago, maybe not even that long, he was under big time fire because people thought he was in over his head, and that he should have delegated more authority to the coaches and the general manager. And Jed's, even while they've been winning now, he's been able to take a hands-off approach because Lynch and Shanahan have a harmonious relationship, at least so it looks on the outside, which benefits in terms of it's less of a distraction during a time like when they haven't won a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Paraag is a visible figure to Leeds. He's kind of made it clear that the decision making and day-to-day stuff is handled by Radrizzani and Kinnear and Orta, and that he's not hands-on, but he's in the background. And he's, again, of course, they've had a couple of years now where they've been like very, very small minority owners and a couple of percentage, and then they've built up to the 44%. And they've kind of been just, slowly dipping their toe into the Premier League and into Leeds. And Paraag as a character, what can Leeds fans expect from Paraag? Because it would appear that if the buyout does happen in the next 2 years, he would be a very, very front figure for that buyout. What can Leeds fans expect from Paraag?
Paraag is an extremely intelligent individual, and from the business side of things. So he will, I would imagine he's going to have a lot of say in player contracts, who you acquire. He's going to really enjoy that aspect. It's going to be a different avenue than the NFL, where you'd be bartering with agents. Now you can barter with other teams. I think he's really looking forward to it. They're not going to be dipping their toe in. They're going to be jumping their whole body into this. This is the excitement I got from Paraag from talking to him a couple of weeks ago is he is all aboard this, and he is so excited for what the future holds for Leeds. I don't quite know what the stadium situation is there, but I'd imagine that they're going to get a new stadium at some point to try to get in more money and host other events there like they did in Levi Stadium because it's big business. It's a great way to get the money. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he's very shrewd. I mean, there were times when he started on the Niners, he was more of a data analytics guy. So he would be upstairs during games and maybe try to, offer the analytical approach, or maybe whether you should go for a replay or challenge things like this. And fans really did not like that. They thought he was overstepping his bounds, but he kept getting promoted within the organization. And there was a time where he was a president for like a year or two, and everything was just, the team was terrible. Everybody thought leaks were coming from Paraag into the media. And I don't personally know this. This was the reputation he had. Yeah. So he had a really bad reputation there for a while. But I think over the last 6-7 years, he's really rebuilt that into back to where it was, where he's a very bright individual that has the best interest of a club going forward. And the sense I get from Paraag is he is extremely happy. I don't know about happy, extremely, he's gung-ho to take on this project. How's that? That's
good. We need a bit of gung-ho right now. Yeah. The stadium's an interesting one because it's come up quite a lot. Leeds Stadium's quite old. It's holds with 37,000 people, right. But it's a very tight, compact ground with one of the best atmospheres in the league. It's quite a hostile environment for away teams. And they've talked about stadium improvements, and at the moment it seems to kind of gone quiet. From an on-field, off-field perspective, where do you think the 49ers' initial step will be when they come in? Will it be a case of, well, let's get the off-the-field stuff, the stadium, the revenue coming in from that first, or will it be, well, let's get a roster on the team, on a team on the pitch that can win us some stuff, or at least secure a higher place in the league?
That's a great balancing act question, isn't it? Because they need both. And, players are going to come and go. And I would think that they know that they're on this balancing act right now, trying to figure out. I think they want to get the right players on that roster. So it's a matter of when can you do it, and then when can you really get working on this stadium. Now, say they take over the ownership in the next year, right? The full bore. Well, you can come in there and probably that first year, I would say you probably want to make sure the roster is intact, so you do pretty well, and then you can get building on a stadium. The Niners built their stadium that they're in right now. It opened in 2014. I think it took them about 2.5 years to build, for example. And it's probably, I don't know how stadium building is in London. I mean, there's a lot of political hoops you got to jump through here. Not London. I'm sorry, Leeds. It's very inappropriate of me. My father was I could have a UK passport if I really. My father was born in Scotland, so I figure like yeah. But anyhow, I think they really want to get both done. Obviously, I mean, the stadium project in California it dragged on for probably close to 15 years, maybe even longer. They wanted to build in San Francisco. It was very difficult with all the politicians and the environmental reports that they had to do and the site they wanted to build on. It was just going to be a disaster. So they've been practicing about 45 minutes south in Silicon Valley near San Jose and Santa Clara. They've been practicing there for, let's see, probably about 31 years now. So it's not like they really uprooted. That's where they would be every day, except for the 8 game days during the regular season. So there's a giant parking lot next to them at their training facility. They decided to build a stadium on it, and it worked out well. Now, did they decide to build on it when they had a great roster or not? No, the roster was not in great shape when they started building the stadium. So I don't think it's either or for Leeds. But it is interesting. It's like, where do you put your financial backing? I just think 2 different budgets, right?
Yeah.
I think you have to look. We're going to spend this much on a stadium, no matter what. We're going to spend this much. But then what's the world economy telling us? Where can we pull our money? Like, if we're in a recession right now and there's not a lot of money to go around, they're not going to just all of a sudden build a football stadium in Leeds, saying, everything's fine, let's just build it. And those factors have to factor in as well. But then at the same time, so that's the stadium aspect. But like, if you want to continue to have a team in the Premiership, then you better have some good players. And they're not going to try to do a bargain basement job on this. I mean, I will say this is something good to know too, Niner-wise, to Leeds, is once they entered like the championship window of being able to compete for a Super Bowl, they have spent money. They have spent a lot of money on top tier players, whether that's bringing them in from other teams, whether that's retaining their own. So it's a really good mix. And for the most part, they've rewarded their homegrown talent with big contracts that reset the market at those positions, whether it's a tight end, a linebacker, a left tackle, even a quarterback. That the NFL world revolves around quarterbacks, and they took a big chance giving Jimmy Garoppolo a massive contract 4 years ago. And it hasn't necessarily worked out poorly, but it hasn't produced a Super Bowl win. And in the Bay Area, with the 49ers legacy, you have to win a championship for anybody to validate your success. So that's why everybody's still kind of a little iffy, kind of going, well, we really wish we had the old ownership regime of Eddie DeBartolo, where Eddie produced 4 Super Bowl championships and was very iron-fisted and very demanding, would make Bill Walsh cry and want to quit. Bill Walsh was one of the greatest coaches of all time. And I think they were way more hands-off with Kyle Shanahan as their coach right now, because they believe in him and his system. But check back in a year. If they still stink and they're not in the playoffs, then they're back to where Leeds are right now.
Yeah, and the coaching model in Leeds is on a conveyor belt at the moment with Marcelo Bielsa, who was idolized by Leeds fans, and which has been unfortunate for Jesse Marsh to try and follow in his footsteps, because he's kind of onto a loss already, but he's doing his best. It's not working out particularly well, but there's a lot of questions at the moment about, do we change the manager? Do we change the players? Is it the board that need to change? So it's quite a volatile place at the moment. There's a lot of unhappy Leeds fans. So it's a similar kind of.
I don't think the board's changing. If the board's changing, it's coming 49er way. So it's that's
the question. That's the question.
They're not going to be giving up whatever control they have. They're going to take on more control, and they're going to try to get the right players and then figure out the manager stuff too. Yeah. And obviously they made the change at manager, hoping that this would be, something to elevate them. It's backfiring, but then again, you look at the roster and the other teams, and it's sports. It's a combination. You got to find the right combination that works. Correct. And it's not necessarily a personal indictment on somebody. It's just, okay, that's not working.
This is a pure, I know you're really stuck for time, so I'll let you go after this question. This is purely in your opinion, and that's all this would be, is, do you think if Leeds, which are in the moment flirting with relegation from the Premier League, dropping down a division into the Championship, which could be, it's detrimental to Leeds, do you think the 49ers would sit and watch that happen as a minority shareholder, knowing that they might lose an investment? Or do you think they would step in before the deadline and go, no, we're going to take full ownership now and try and kick this on again until we stay in the Premier League?
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. Their teeth are in on this, and they're going to bite. They're going to take on Leeds. This isn't all indications from my point of view. I mean, unless they've lost a heck of a lot of money over the last year with the economy.
No, it's the other way around. Actually, Leeds are one of the few clubs with no debt, and they're actually had the zero net spend this preseason. So yeah.
So no, I mean they're all aboard. So
Cam, massive thank you for this. I really appreciate it. I know you're tight for time, but 20 minutes is more than enough, and I really appreciate it. Have a fantastic day, and thanks for stopping by.
When are they playing Liverpool? I gotta have to tune in. It's next week.
Saturday.
Come on, get in the game. I'm not gonna fire you either. All right. See ya.
Thanks, Cam.
All right. Bye-bye.